cool. We stole long enough. Now we have to carry on. We need to start talking about films this week. And we need to kick off with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Now, this is, once again, the next film in the Marvel canon thing. This is a film that is a sequel to quite a few different things. It's a sequel to the original Doctor Strange. It carries on the story that we left off in WandaVision. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's come up after Spider-Man No Way Home. There's all these things that Marvel is picking up with this film and running with it. And in this film, you meet Doctor Strange. He's now aware of the multiverse. And as the title tells you, it's no secret that in this film, they get to travel into the multiverse through a character that we meet in the first frame called America Chavez, who has the ability to go across the multiverse. She ends up in Doctor Strange's world. She tells him about this, and then they end up traveling across the whole thing because somebody's after her, and who's after her becomes the first thing that we got to figure out in the film. And then it becomes like a chase movie where throughout the whole thing, you're trying to save this girl from whoever it is that wants to steal her power by killing her. That is pretty much the story. I don't think there's anything else to add in there. So let's get straight on to... And the problem with this film is that it's quite hard to talk about without spoiling. Because about 5 minutes into the film... Spoiler! and obviously it's a Marvel movie. They like to put surprises in there. There's all sorts of things that were speculated about this film, about who was going to show up. If we're going into the multiverse, what are we going to see? And all this different stuff that was just coming out of it. So that's why I had myself locked up for 2 days, ignoring all social media because people were going to say what was in it before I finally got to see the film. What did you guys think of this?
Do you want to go first, Sharon? Or do you want me to go first? I mean, I
don't mind because I haven't got any sort of great insights really. I had to do my homework. I had to go and watch Spider-Man No Way Home, so I watched that at the beginning of the week just to get a bit of an idea what's going on. So that did help.
Yep.
Anyone who hasn't seen that one, it certainly helps to sort of expand the understanding of Doctor Strange as well.
Yeah.
I thought on the whole, I enjoyed it very much. I liked some of the nods I thought to classic cinema. There's one I would say there's like a Fantasia moment, and then there was almost like a Universal's Picture moment that I thought that was quite fun.
All right. Oh, no. I'm just wondering because loads of people have been talking about loads of nods in this film and I missed most of them. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I think I caught some of the horror ones, but a lot of these things, a lot of these nods that were this one I missed. So
there's some interesting sort of nods to other sort of classics of cinema. I think in some ways that sort of ties in with the whole WandaVision thing, where you get this sort of
classic TV thing,
and this there was what the elements of classic cinema. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed exploring Doctor Strange.
Yep.
Because we have, as in their multiverse, there's
multiple versions of most characters.
Most characters exist in another universe. They have a similar arc, but not exactly the same. So it's interesting to see how one, sort of the fickle finger of fate in one universe can make someone almost like how it can change their whole development and how their world is affected around them. So yeah, there's some on a higher level, there's some intellectual things. I thought that's quite an interesting sort of intellectual thing to think about. But yeah, I thought it had humour, quite irreverent humour as well, which was quite sort of suits my sort of personal taste. So on the whole, I would say I enjoyed it.
Okay, cool. Sean, what did you think?
Okay, my thoughts on it.
Because you've actually seen it more than once, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sharon really upset. That was brilliant, Sharon. What you said there about the nods to different things. I mean, I'm sure you saw a lot more than I did. For me, the film was what should we say? It was quite interesting, the fact that it introduces some character without giving too much away. And I think I did talk to someone about it, and they said, well, it's in the trailer, so it's not really a giveaway. There's another Marvel TV series called What If. So
yes.
And there's a few nods in that it's like it's going to be the next phase. I think they've introduced the next phase. And what's really interesting is there's one character that you can see. So they're bringing the whole lot together. There's like these.
Oh, it was like Marvel getting the band back together.
They're getting the band back together. They're getting the rights.
It's kind of like you can see like when Marvel, because I remember talking about Spider-Man No Way Home and saying that a large part of that film, for me, it wasn't so much a film about Spider-Man as it was a film about Marvel and Disney's extra wranglings about the character of Spider-Man. Is like and about the fight between Spider-Man and Sony and how you get it. That was what I felt. And I think there's a bit of this where we talk about getting the band back together. Where Marvel, since they bought Fox, and they're like, we've got Fox. That means we own all the X-Men characters now. Yes. That means we have, and so there's bits where you can see them going, okay, cool. Now we're essentially going to recreate the comics on screen. Quite frankly. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, Sean, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's cool. That's cool you said that. So that aspect of it was quite, because the other characters that are in it, the Illuminati, should we say, was I mean, I'm au fait with those characters, so I knew what each of the characters were from. The film on the whole started off for me. It started off really, really, really good. Yeah. And then I towards the end, it started to get a bit cliche, should we say, and a bit no, and a bit for me. There was a bit in, the one of the Avengers one where it's like, you've gone this far, and all of a sudden it's sort of like, really? It's that? Do you know what I mean? It's like you've gone exactly through so much, like, so much trauma for this one goal, and then it's like, oh, to me, that's so. For me, I was thinking. It lost a little bit of consistency towards the end. It was a bit of a letdown towards the end, should we say?
Yeah. But now, the thing is, I was smiling, and I almost jumped in when Sharon was talking, and I decided to be polite and stuff, because when you mentioned the whole thing about the intellectual stuff, so Sharon, you said about it being, and this is a weird thing because obviously this is the next film that they've made after Spider-Man No Way Home, and it's going to be compared to that film. There's no two ways about it. And so I was watching this, and I was comparing that when I was watching Spider-Man No Way Home. I was enjoying that as I was watching it. And this, I wasn't so much enjoying it as I was studying it. As I was sitting out there going, okay, that's okay, cool, if you're gonna do that, but if you're gonna do that, what's that gonna mean for that? And I was kind of sort of sat out there just sort of studying this film. And there were bits about this where I felt like it's carried on, as I said, that whole thing of Marvel not making a film about whatever the film's about, but it's almost as if you can see that, you can feel the outside world behind the film intruding on the film, and that's why that guy's there, and that's why this person's shown up. Now, there are some cameos in this film there is one musical cue. There is one musical cue where they have a little bit of music that plays when a character shows up that had me punching the air. And any child of the 90s who was a fan of comic books, and especially Marvel comic books in the 90s, that was a total punch to the air. I was like, oh, yes, they went there. I think the film is, there was a whole bunch of talk about it being like Marvel's first horror movie. And there's definitely horror inflections in there. The fact that there's bits that you can see in the trailer. And there's bits that, when you talk about What If, which was the first time that they actually sort of went to the multiverse and all that kind of stuff, that there's bits in there. Although, you guys both know, and I have gone on record many times on this podcast saying as I do not like the multiverse. I think the multiverse leads to lazy writing. And I feel like the multiverse is the thing that is going to destroy the MCU. This film, and I remember watching Spider-Man No Way Home and thinking, I enjoyed that, but I can still see the problems of the multiverse coming through, and it's started a little bit. This film has only reinforced my view that the multiverse is going to destroy the MCU. Yeah. It has only reinforced it, because when we talk about lazy, like there is one pep talk. Sean, I totally agree with you. That the film starts off all like nice, like, oh, okay, like, what we're gonna do here? Oh, it's gonna be a bit weird, and it's gonna be a bit, and there's a bit like, the first Doctor Strange went weird, and it went Jack Kirby weird, and there's a bit where, like, where Doctor Strange does his first trip through the sort of like astral plane, and they have a similar sort of thing here, but it's kind of like traveling through the different multiverses because when he does the first trip, so those bits are all nice and they're interesting and they're a bit out there and they're weird, but there's a bit where they give a pep talk, and oh my god, it's kind of like, let me put it this way. There was a film called Shout, and I'm trying to talk about these things without talking about Doctor Strange because I don't want to give any spoilers. But there's a film called Shout in which John Travolta plays like some sort of blues teacher musician in the 1950s, and he goes to this town and there's these kids who are trying to play but can't really play the guitar. And then there's this scene where John Travolta gives this kid a pep talk and goes, "Come on, it's inside you. It's been inside you the whole time. Just gotta let it out." And the next thing you know, the guy's the best blues guitarist in the world. And you're thinking, what the hell? And there's a scene in this film that gave me a massive what the hell moment. And I was like, what? No, come on. And Sean, when you talk about the whole thing about you've come this far, why would you come? And the character motivations, I am, especially one particular character, I am not particularly sure that the motivations follow on from what we have seen before. There's an argument to be made that it does follow on. There's an argument to be made that it does not follow on. But it makes you, but you're like, you turn 2 pages there. Something went wrong there. That's quite a drastic jump.
Yeah.
And at the end of the film, at the conclusion of the film, they do some things where I'm like, hang on, but if you have just done that 5 minutes ago and you've just realized that 5 minutes ago, why the hell are you doing that now? Why aren't you doing that? and so there's just bits that you're like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't hold together. And it's a shame because Benedict Cumberbatch is probably the best he's ever been as Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Putting like different shades of the character, especially I think because I remember in the first Doctor Strange movie, Rachel McAdams, there was almost kind of like a why is she even in this film? It's like there was a big thing of why is she even in this film? Why did you get Rachel McAdams if she's not going to do anything? They do more with her, and I think the interplay between, because I remember in What If they tried to make that character, for my money, they tried to make that character more important than the character ever was. And I feel like they doubled down on that, but it's more believable here, mostly because of the performances of Benedict Cumberbatch and Rachel McAdams. But there's just so many bits in this film where they do stuff, not because it makes any sense, but because that's the kind of stuff you do in movies. And it annoyed the hell out of me.
I think for me, I think this was a little bit of a showcase for the next, whatever generation of Marvel movies, because they're obviously going to do some reboots and introduce other things.
So that's going to happen. We've known that's coming for a while.
Yeah, we know when it's been going for a while. So
the thing about it is, I was surprised at how standalone this film is, because there's a lot of stuff beforehand that this film links to, but there's not a lot of stuff afterwards that it explicitly links to. Like, it's not sort of saying, "Ooh, come back because this is going to happen next," and that is going to happen next. Even in the post-credits things or anything like that, there's no come back because, "Ooh, this character's going to show up in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or anything like that. So it's I was quite surprised at how standalone it was. But I think we've gone on along. I think this film is causing a lot of debate for people. Some people think it is a pile of steaming cack. Some people think it's actually brilliant. And I come down somewhere in the middle. I think I'll have to give it a 3, but it's a very disappointed 3.
For me, yeah, I give it a 3 as well, because it started off really interesting. It started off good. There were some nice elements in it, but it's like, I don't know what happens. It's like for me, it seems to be like a lot of films. Towards the end, it sort of loses its way.
I'll tell you what happened. The multiverse happened.
The multiverse
happened, and the multiverse is going to ruin the MCU. I am saying it now. It is going to. It ruins it in the comics. It becomes big. It becomes unwieldy, and the only thing is to take off to a safe height and nuke the whole thing from space. Nuke the whole thing from orbit, and that's what they do in the comics, and that's what's going to happen with the MCU, because the multiverse is going to ruin it.
Yeah, you don't want them to use it as like a get out of jail card. It's like, wow. But there's always
the thing is, you can see elements of that already happening in this film. Like for instance, the character of America Chavez, some people have called her a walking, talking MacGuffin. It's like, we need to travel through the multiverse. What are we going to do? Ta-da! There's somebody in the multiverse who can do it.
I think the multiverse was good. The Spider-Man, the latest Spider-Man one was good to put that back on. So that I think that was a good reason.
Yeah, they dabbled in it. They dabbled in it.
Yeah, but now it's like, become a monster. An unwieldy monster.
It is an unwieldy, one-eyed monster in the streets of New York, and it's and I really think it's going to destroy the MCU. But sorry, Sharon, how many stars?
I would agree. I'd give it. There's elements I really liked, and there's elements that I was a bit like. You say, you sort of step out of the film and you're thinking about the film rather than being immersed in it. So I had those moments. So for that reason, I would give it a 3 as well.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but but I think I pretty much spend most of this film with a.
Yeah, that's it.
Look at my face. Apart from that one musical cue when one of the characters shows up, and I was like, yes. There were a couple of bits I really liked, and I just wish that the film had sustained it.
I know that film.